It is time to get some grapevines pruned. That's up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you here on a beautiful mid-February morning in 2022. If you guys have been following us along, you know that we have over 170 fruit trees here on the farm, but what we're talking about today is grapevines. So today we're going to be showing you the two primary ways that you would typically find wine grapes growing, and every vine that you see today has only been in the ground for a year. So these will be the first time that these vines are getting pruned. Now we've got a lot to show you today, so let's go ahead and talk real quick about the tools we're gonna need in order to get this accomplished. Okay, first things first would be safety. I have some gloves on, sharp implements, hands without gloves, bad combo. Simple safety glasses will work fine. We've got a lot of vines in here that get very whippy. Don't want those hitting our eyes. The primary thing we use for cutting is going to be these Corona pruners. These are bypass pruners. That simply means the blade on this side bypasses the anvil when you're using it. We found, especially for fruit trees, it's important not to have the anvil style pruners. They're gonna mash your branches. You don't want to be doing that. Next thing would be a pair of bypass loppers. Same action here, but these will be used for your larger branches. Last but not least, and this is only if necessary, I do have a folding saw. This one is also from Corona. We only use these when necessary on grapevines. Typically the loppers are gonna take care of the job without any issues. Now what we're gonna do is go ahead and take a look at the first type of grapevines that we are gonna be pruning today. The first vines you're gonna be seeing today are our Cabernet Sauvignon grapes. Again, these vines have been in the ground for a year. You can see from this particular vine here, we're getting very good, strong, aggressive growth, which is great. Now, this particular variety does best when it's on a spur pruning system, which simply means we have cordons that go from either side of the trunk that we're gonna be establishing today, and eventually these are gonna go from your 3-foot wire up to your 6-foot wire. Now, the first season, even with your spur pruned grapevines, the goal is to get a solid trunk. We want that trunk to break below our 3-foot wire so we can easily lay the cordons down on the 3-foot wire to make sure that we're training them properly. Now with this particular one that we're looking at first, it's very easy to see. Hopefully you can pick it up on camera. I have a nice break here about 6 inches below my 3-foot wire, and I've got a pretty good split. I have what essentially will be a cordon going to my left, your right, and a cordon that's already established here to my right, your left. So all I'm really gonna do this year is basically remove the rest of the branching and get down to just my 2 cordons on this spur pruning system. So what I'm gonna do here to start is I'm gonna take any of my growth that's up above the 3-foot level off. I know that I'm not gonna be doing anything with that, and it kind of allows me to see the rest of the vine. Got everything cleared out above here. Now what I'm gonna be dealing with is all of the new growth down here below this 3-foot level. So I have multiple basically trunks that have attempted to form here over the summer growing season. Now I know that I'm gonna be keeping this as my primary trunk because I have cordons that are already basically establishing here, and I wanna go ahead and keep that going into this season. But I'm gonna basically be taking the rest of the material off. The exception is I need to have a backup trunk. I have this one here that's basically facing towards my 3-foot wire. I'm gonna take it off right about where I would want it to break, which is about 6 inches or so below this 3-foot wire. So now I should mention we have a lot of strong growth out of our grapevines. When you're trying to determine which branches to keep for fruiting wood the following season, you're looking for branches that are at least a pencil in diameter. You can see I have all of these branches are much larger than that. So when I'm looking at my backup trunk, I'm making sure that I have, again, at least a pencil in diameter. So if you're not seeing the same growth, That's your key. All right, now that I have my backup trunk chosen, what I can do is go ahead and remove the rest of the branching down below my primary trunk. Now what I'm gonna do is basically set my cordons. Now I can use the wire, in fact we will attach these cordons, but I don't really need any of the extra growth. I see one exception, that's this guy right here. Looks like a fantastic spur or a future spur. So what I'll be doing with this one in particular, I am gonna go ahead and save it, you'll see that. And I'm gonna be making sure that I keep at least 2 buds on this particular spur that can give me growth this year. Now, whether or not we'll allow it to give us fruit, I don't know, hard to say. Beyond that, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the rest of the branching and again, get down to just my single cordon on both sides. So this will give you an idea of the finished product on the first year's pruning on my Cabernet grape with a spur pruning system. So we will come back and tape this down. I won't intertwine that because it can cause damage to the cordons. And then we did cut the cordons so they fit into our 6-foot spacing. This one was pretty straightforward. We already had cordons developed. It was split in the right spot, but that doesn't happen every time. Let's go ahead and take a look at another example where we actually don't have 2 cordons that are already split this nicely. This will be a good example of a lot of strong growth. I've got multiple trunks coming up into here. I don't have an obvious cordon that I can lay down on the 3-foot wire. The focus here this year is to establish a good trunk and have it break in a spot, at least in the future, where I can lay 2 cordons down going either direction. So I've figured out that my straightest and strongest branch is this guy right here. So I'm gonna be keeping this one. I'll be keeping a backup trunk, basically. Otherwise, all the material on this right here is gonna come off because again, the focus this year is establishing that trunk. So I'm down to my primary trunk, that's this one here, and I do have a backup trunk here just in case, for whatever reason, this one doesn't break dormancy, but I can tell very easily that this is alive and well, so I'm not too concerned. Now what I was paying attention to, I want my break to be about 4 to 6 inches below my 3-foot wire. I have a bud that's facing that direction right here, about 3 inches from the top of my cut, and I have another bud that faces this way that's about 1 inch above my final cut. So hopefully, in theory, I should get growth both directions here, and I can lay those down on this 3-foot wire this year during the growing season, and I'll be able to establish my cordons for this spur pruning system. Remember that anytime you make a cut, you're going to have some dieback, so that inch or so space between the cut and that first bud should work out just fine. So we've shown you how we do our cuts for the first year on a spur pruning system. Now what I want to show you is the simplicity of a cane pruning system in the first year. This is one of our Syrah grapevines. We have 6 of them here on the farm. The best system for this particular variety is a cane pruning system. And the way that works is you're establishing the trunk just like we did with the Cabernets. We're not looking for canes to lay down this year. What we're really wanting to do is establish the head. So I'm looking for my most vertical vine that's at least a pencil in diameter. This guy here well exceeds that. And then I want that head to basically terminate about 4 to 6 inches from this 3-foot wire. So basically everything that's on this vine is coming off except for basically this spot here, which is where the head of this particular cane prune vine is going to start. So you'll see that I actually have 2 basically trunks here. That's on purpose. I'm not too concerned about this trunk. I can see it's nice and alive here. will be breaking dormancy in the next couple weeks. I'm about 4 inches or so from the top of the wire to my first set of buds that's right here on this particular vine. And then I have multiple buds that are just below that. So the way a cane pruned vine works is you have a head, and this will continue to get larger and larger, that extends just below the 3-foot wire, and next year's canes that come out of these particular nodes or buds, we will eventually lay down on the 3-foot wire to give us fruit the following year. But again, this year we're establishing that trunk and the head with my backup trunk right here, just in case. So hopefully today's episode gave you a good idea of what you can do with your 1-year-old grapevines going into their first pruning season. Now, these grapevines, while we may allow some production on them this coming year, the focus is definitely not that after year 1. The primary thing is establishing the structure of the vine, in this case a spur pruned. The last one we showed you was a cane prune, but you want a solid base because the goal come 2 to 3 years from now, when you're talking about wine grapes, a little adult beverage when it's all said and done. So just want to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Grapes is one of the things we do here, but we love our fruit trees here on the farm and would love to have you as a subscriber. And if you know anybody that's into this kind of content, definitely share it. It helps us when you do. Any questions or comments, those go in the comment section down below. And our Amazon shop, I'll leave a link down in the description. That is a free, painless way to help support the channel. If you start with a link down below, it doesn't matter what you buy, you help to support us here. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you. So you're gonna see exactly how we're, son of a gun. Stop it. Don't want to get the hands chopped off. Well, in the end, when it comes to Cabernets, a little bit of nectar of the gods. Or in this case, when you're talking about wine grapes, a little adult beverage when it's all said and done. Is that better? Whatever. Or in this case, we want a little sauce when it's all said and done. Is that good? Of course, if we were in Champagne, France, it would be a little bubbly. Better?